Hello everyone, and welcome to our latest ALTA Insights webinar. I'm Jeremy Yohe, ALTA's Vice President of Communications, and today we've got a great presentation lined up to provide you some easy and inexpensive marketing strategies, tips that you can implement later this afternoon if you want. Today's webinar is being recorded. You'll get an email with a link to the recording tomorrow. And you can always access all of our webinar recordings at alta.org/webinars. That's alta.org/webinars. You can download a PDF of the presentation from the handout section of the GoToWebinar window. Also in the handout section, you can download an example of a marketing flyer that's available to ALTA members and can be personalized on Canva. And you can also find a lot more other marketing resources at alta.org/homeowner. And there you'll find handouts, videos, one-pagers, social media posts, just a wealth of content that you can use. For today's webinar, if anytime you have a question, please submit them through the questions box. We'll hold a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. I do need to thank Certified for sponsoring today's webinar. And before introducing today's speaker, I have a short message from Certified.
It felt like we weren't getting any support from the people involved in a real estate transaction. The banks were kind of hands off on that. It was just one of those things, who's doing something about this?
My team was so excited to learn that there was a software program that they could send these payoffs out so much quicker, so much more efficiently, and with that peace of mind security that there is insurance that is protecting these funds.
I would advise you to look into something immediately because the wire fraud is so prevalent. We are seeing so many different scenarios and ways that they are coming up with to infiltrate, get money, and divert, and you need to be protected.
Okay, thank you, Certified. Wire fraud, always an issue for the industry. And just for an FYI, we do have a webinar next week. We'll have Tom Conkright with Certified to talk about the latest wire fraud trends and some of the latest tactics that the criminals are using. So if you're not registered for that, go to ALTA's website and you can find the information to get registered for that webinar. So anyway, turning to today's presentation. Join us today, we have Dean Kalura. Dean is co-founder and CEO of TitleTap. TitleTap develops websites and provides content marketing, ads, social media, and more for title agents and attorneys. And back in the day, Dean once worked in the title industry as a closer, so he knows your business. And with that, Dean, I will make you the presenter. And
I mean, Jeremy, that is how all this white happened on this beard here. Thanks for having me, man. I'm super excited, and thanks for everybody for tuning in. Give me 1 second to get the screen figured out.
It's always a little clunky.
Yeah. Give me half more minute here. Present. All right. Let me know if. All right. So we passed that part. Boom.
Yep. There we go.
Seeing #1 goal?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Cool. Well, again, thanks everyone for joining us. I have a ton of content that I'm really excited to share. I know, that the markets have been tricky to say the least in terms of predictability, and marketing is one of those areas that traditionally, it has taken time. In many cases, it can take dollars, just depending on what you're doing with your strategy. So I'm really excited about today's topic just because, my number one goal is really for you to take some action here. No matter what you take away from this, there are going to be bits of this that are free to low cost and can literally be implemented in minutes. So all that's going to need to happen is to change a small habit for you to take some action. And so I'm hoping something today resonates and you can do that and see some momentum from a marketing perspective that doesn't break the bank and doesn't take up too much of your time to get rolling. So with that, I'm going to dive in, Jeremy. At any point in time, feel free, like we do, to call out some things that you want to go deeper on. But I'm going to just go ahead and get going with this. So my first tip is about leveling up your email marketing. Now, again, for many, there's probably a wide variety of attempts on doing email marketing. Some of you maybe have done it in the past and received mixed results. Some have been good results. Some maybe not so much. Many of you may not have tried it before, right? So I want to give a few pointers on this, on how to kind of level up what you're doing there, for two reasons. One, marketing is still very potent when it comes to connecting with your base. A recent study showed that 72% of the consumer bases out there actually prefer email marketing over other channels for things like promotions, right? So if you think about the types of content that you're going to be marketing within an email framework, announcements, news, promos, things of this nature, it's still very effective to use email marketing to have that reach. So as part of this, you kind of back into a reverse engineer why it's so effective and a good tool. Well, number one is you can kind of target your audience. So we're going to get into this a little bit on the next slide. And most of who you reach out should be on a list of some sort that has opted in and said, hey, it's okay to reach back out to me. So we'll talk about that. It's very cost effective to do. We're going to talk about some tools that are actually free to get going with this. You can personalize it. So in many of those tools, you're able to automate how you use someone's first name in the email. So you can do kind of a one-to-many effort and make it feel personalized for them. You can measure your results, which again, knowing what's effective and what's not effective, many times it could take a couple iterations of some A/B testing on the messaging to see what really is working well with that particular audience versus what's not. And then ultimately, once you've nailed these down, you can automate the process to where you're not, it's not taking you, 2 or 3 steps to pull it together. And once you've got your message, you can kind of schedule things out for it to just work for you. So when we talk about, having limited resources, both in time and money, this is one way to really spread your reach and it be effective. So the tools we'll talk about are MailChimp, and I was happy to hear Jeremy mention Canva. I actually did this presentation in Canva. So for those of you who have not jumped on the Canva bus yet, highly recommend it. There's another tool out there that we'll get to later on as well that is similar to Canva. Both have free options. I chose MailChimp. There are other email marketing solutions out there, Active Campaign, Constant Contact, some of these you're familiar with. The reason why I chose MailChimp is because they have a free starting point option. And so I'll have resources on where to go for that. So in essence, with what we're talking about here, it's free to sign up for MailChimp. It's free to sign up for Canva. You're not paying for that. And all that's left is really you and your computer to kind of write up what the messaging should be for the audience. And then you can leverage these tools to actually execute on the plan, right? So a few things that we'll talk about that are really sensitive when we talk through email marketing as an option is just being super aware of the CAN-SPAM Act. Many of you already are familiar with this act, but as it relates to email marketing, you want to make sure you're not giving false or misleading header information, using deceptive practices in your subject lines. You do want to give folks, legitimacy that you are a real business, a real person behind the business, giving them easy outs. So the good news about this is several of you probably are recipients of email marketing, and you have seen where you've got an easy opt-out option. If you don't, because I haven't either, you are forced to kind of tell the person, hey, just get me off your list. You just want to make it easy for folks to opt out if they're no longer interested in the content that you're sharing, right? And so this allows, again, for trust and transparency, and it's supposed to mitigate abuse, right? So just be aware of it. I'm not an attorney, but I do know that there are finable acts here if you do abuse people's information to send email types of marketing and you get complaints. So just be very aware of this as you kind of roll out your strategy. One way to do this is to make sure you have a very easy way for people to opt in and ultimately for you to build a list. So there's a couple of ways that we've seen customers do this, and we've seen customers in other business sectors do this. That works really well. You have a natural starting point, right? When you're talking about handling a closing for a client, you have a lot of parties typically involved in that transaction that are giving you their information. So, one way to build your list is to ask for permission to market other services or keep them in the loop for future information that they may find interesting or relevant for their situation, and just having them give you the okay and having that documented, right? As you build your list, we have seen it where you can be blacklisted from an email marketing perspective, which will make it very uncomfortable, because then your business email could potentially also be affected by that. So in order to get out of those situations, you have to provide proof that those individuals actually gave you the permission to email them. So you want to make sure you have documentation or ways to reference their opt-in, that yes, they signed up to get more information post whatever transaction they had with you, okay? And there's a couple ways to do this. Again, at the closing, you might have a document that allows you to, get that opt-in permission because it has that specific language. We've seen other, customers use things like you see on your screen here, which are ways to sign up for things like newsletters, or they're putting in their information. Once they do that, that's logged in the system that they've provided that information, on their own, and that in turn serves as that permission. This also helps, again, build your list. So if you remember when on the last slide, when I talked about why is email marketing as a strategy really interesting, why you should care, you can really tailor your message right by the audience. And so your list gives you that ability then to analyze who are these folks, right? What types of information would they care about? You probably want to send information and different types of promotions and different types of campaigns to a realtor-based audience that might be slightly different than you would send, let's say, to a lender-based audience or a buyer-based audience. So it really just depends who you're sending it out to. It is not a one-size-fits-all when it comes to content marketing and campaigns. You want to really make sure you've dialed in what the needs and interests are of your audience, so that you mitigate how many people opt out, right? All too often, and most of us have experienced this, where you've got a message that had no relevancy at all to what you do, what your interests are, and it just becomes, white noise that you want to get away from as quick as possible. You don't want to be that to your audience, right? So take the time to really understand who it is that you're going to be messaging, and making sure that the content that you're providing is things that they care about. All right, moving on. I'm going to give some tips here. Some of this may be redundant, but I thought that it might be useful. What we've seen and what has been documented by companies like MailChimp, who provide the tools to do email marketing to thousands of businesses. What they've seen and what we've actually experienced, even at TitleTap, is some best practices really come to light. And so I just wanted to share these with you as you start thinking through different types of campaigns you want to run. The subject line is like really, really important, right? It's in many cases, it's the first thing people will see. A lot of folks are looking at email from their phone, so shorter is definitely better here. 9 to 60 characters max, And that subject line, you want to make sure that it's something that, again, is calling out some interest or curiosity to the customer, and gets them, enough information to either spark that curiosity or connect the dots on the relevancy really quickly. You want to limit things like punctuation marks. I mean, no more than 3 is what's recommended to avoid looking like spam and too commercial. And be sparing with your emojis. So I've seen it to where there's been, I've seen 5, 7 emojis on a subject line, and again, it can be overused, and you don't want to necessarily use that to replace words like they're saying there. Be very specific as to what the intention is in your subject line. The other thing you want to do is test. So not every operating system is going to render those emojis the same way. And again, many of you may have experienced that as well. So if you've got some colleagues or some friends, kind of test around to make sure it appears the way that you are intending it to appear.
So Dean, a little bit more on testing. I did it more a few years ago, less now, but I use the website subjectline.com. And when you go there, you can punch in your subject line and hit evaluate, and it'll tell you, what you should do to make it more effective, and then you can play around with it to get the best results. And
awesome.
Actually, on the website, they have a free email marketing calendar, and it's broken down throughout the year of when are the best and worst days to send your email marketing campaigns.
Yeah, because that does matter as well. The timing is everything. And you want to make sure that you've got kind of all this alignment. So that's great. Maybe you can, we can share that in the notes too, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Great point.
And I saw a report or some study that said Sunday morning emails now are become popular, where, in the past, weekends were taboo. Don't send, marketing emails on the weekend. And also, we still try to we stay away from that. That's like, your personal space. So, we haven't delved into the weekend yet. But.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but you know what? I kind of raised my hand on that one because I'm sort of guilty of that. I will, because it's sort of the time. I've got a window on those Sundays where I've got a little bit of downtime, right? And so if I've got nothing else going on with the family and whatever, I mean, I've caught myself checking, right? So not to say that's a good practice to do on a weekend, but it does happen. Similarly, just to kind of move us on, from an email body perspective, right? There are some best practices here as well. Again, when you keep in mind that a lot of these emails may be being looked at on mobile, you want to keep it brief, right? So the recommendation is 75 to 100 words. Where possible, personalize it. So using their first name in the body. Tools like MailChimp have the ability to insert kind of a placeholder for the first name, and they walk you through how to set up like an Excel file or CSV file to structure it so that it can automatically pull in the first name off of that file. And so that's an easy way to automate how it's personalized. You also want to include a clear call to action, using interesting buttons to call out sort of the next step, right? What's the purpose of the email, and what can they do if they are interested in pursuing whatever that next step is. We talked about A/B testing, how that's important, because as you run these, you want to take a look at the analytics and see if it's effective, if it's not effective, and see what you can tweak. And then having an easy opt-out, again, to stay in compliance is definitely something that you want to have. What the nice part is, a lot of systems like MailChimp have a lot of this stuff already pre-built into their framework, so that you don't miss that part. So I just also want to show, we just as a personal example with TitleTap, I mean, here's a great way where we tied in an image that we put together using Canva. We've got a button for a call to action. There's also a hyperlink to schedule a demo. It's short and concise, and we try to maximize the messaging to match the audience so that it's information they can use if they're in the market of trying to think through a new website coming up. So just knowing your audience and making sure that the framework of the content really aligns is one of the things that, with your testing you can dial in, but just knowing that audience just through conversations, types of questions they ask, will give you some insight into that as well. So from an images perspective, we talked about Canva, and again, Canva is fantastic. There's a lot of free images. Usually the pro images, I think in general run around a buck or two to purchase them. PictoChart is another Canva-like solution that also has free options, so you can check those out. Definitely including images tends to help engagement and open rates. So I would highly encourage that, and it helps it look a little bit more professional as well. Not 100% necessary, but it definitely does help. Images speak 1,000 words, so I would leverage these tools to kind of level up the images game. So to get started, you can actually scan, and this presentation will also, I think you guys have a copy of this, so you can do this, after this webinar, or if you're seeing the recording of this. But if you scan this will take you directly to MailChimp's free plan, where you can kind of opt in to get started. And I listed some highlights here. The free plan allows you to have up to 500 contacts and do up to 1,000 emails per month. So if you're looking to try this out just to kind of test it first, this is a great way to do that on the cheap, right? All right, moving on. So the next kind of round of recommendations and tips is getting into videos, but not just videos for just a particular campaign you're running. I want to kind of broaden the scope of having kind of this multi-purpose. So if you do it one time, how many uses can you get out of that video, right? And so I want to be able to really stretch the mileage out of our resources because they're limited. So we're going to kind of focus on creating multi-purpose video here. And for those who haven't gotten on to the video bandwagon, highly encourage it. Some of the latest stats are there's 86% plus of the businesses right now that are active are using video in some way in their marketing, which means that your competitors are probably leveraging video, right? It's estimated that over 82% of the internet traffic that's out there, again, is video consumption. So it's showing that it's the most preferred way to receive content. And video also increases the effectiveness of conversion. So if you're trying to motivate an audience to take a next step or to do something or to understand why you're delivering the message, it can increase that up to 80%. And again, it's almost self-explanatory at this point, because for a lot of us kind of tuning in, we've seen the power of video because we've been recipients of consuming information via video ourselves, and it's a lot easier to kind of get that connection, hear the tone, feel the energy, and then look forward to taking kind of the next step, whatever that might be. So when I say multi-purpose, what I mean by that is once you've kind of recorded an array of whatever the content you're looking at doing, you can leverage these things on channels like your website, a blog, social media, even email marketing that we talked about. So you've done it one time, but you're able to then scale how that content's distributed across multiple channels, right? So again, you're increasing efficiency that way. The tools that you really need for this, and you can get crazy with this and get into all the editing and things like that. We're not going to talk about that today. It's really about just like taking action, and to take action, it does not need to be perfect. YouTube and your iPhone or smartphone is really all you need to get started. And so YouTube is free to use, and you probably already have a smartphone more than likely. So it really you have what you need to actually get going here. With YouTube, you want to set up a YouTube channel, and so I've listed the steps to do that. It's pretty straightforward, and less than 5 minutes, and you're going to be set up. And I won't go through that verbatim, but the cool part about this is, for those of you that are familiar with companies like BombBomb, who've been at a lot of our conferences, they have a way to incorporate video easily into your email marketing. So you can leverage YouTube videos in your channel within BombBomb as well. So again, we talk about ways to extend as you get used to using YouTube as more of a habit. You'll have different ways to leverage the content that you're storing when you're making these videos in multiple ways, right? So in terms of output, when you set up a YouTube channel, this is kind of the output that you'll get at a high level. Well, you'll have a library of video content. It's easy for visitors to come and see what you're about and subscribe. And then each one of, again, your YouTube videos can be leveraged on different channels, just depending on what your goals are. But the idea here is that you're not needing to reinvent the wheel, and you're going to be leveraging content that many of you already have. And that's kind of leads us in sort of the next chapter here for tips. So when we think about content, this is probably, Jeremy, I would say on what we've seen, one of the biggest holdbacks that many folks have, that and trying to make the video perfect, of reasons why they just haven't gotten around to it, right? So the first thing is you don't have to, again, I'll stress this, it doesn't have to be perfect. As a matter of fact, a lot of videos that get marketed that aren't perfect make you more human and more relatable, and have actually sometimes higher engagement than videos that feel really commercial, right? So don't feel like you need the green screen and all the the editing done just to get something out there. It doesn't need to be that difficult just to get started, right? When we think about content ideas, what I always typically start with, and for any of you that have seen me talk about this, is using the most of what you already have, so you don't have to reinvent it. One of those things are frequently asked questions. It is probably, from a website perspective, one of the most undervalued pages on a site that has actually the highest engagement from an SEO perspective, because those frequently asked questions are typically how the consumer is asking the question, right, on search. So it makes for really kind of a built-in script for a video, right? And again, you want your videos, we've seen different stats on things, but I would say, keeping it under, 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, especially for things like FAQs. It doesn't have to be exhaustive, right? You're going to have their attention span for only a little while. So ask the question in the video and then address how you would address that answer in a very brief way. But FAQs are a great way to get started if you're looking at building out a video library, right? Once you've got those, and in probably one sitting, you could knock out 5 to 10 videos, right? That are basically converting what you've got in text to now a video format that now you can start leveraging across some of those channels we talked about. Another bucket here are scenarios when title insurance has saved the day. So what comes to mind, back when I was in title, I saw several disputes that are in and around boundary lines and encroachments due to like a fence or a pool. Also, any kind of like ownership interest disputes was one that had come up. You probably have your own array of situations where title insurance and just the process of a search and how that was handled would be very beneficial to understand why title insurance is probably a good idea when you're making one of the largest investments in your life. So telling that story via video is a great way to do that. But this also makes for good content, both the FAQs and the scenarios for your email marketing as well, right, in text. Customer experience, what can the customer expect when they engage with you, right? Many times this is, not an experience a lot of buyers and sellers have in spades. They probably have it, just a handful in their lifetime in most cases. So knowing kind of what to expect when they're engaging with your company, what they should have on hand, what the steps of the process are. These are all things that you could make into video shorts, as well as having kind of an overview video.
Yeah. On our consumer education website, Home Closing 101, the top 2 viewed pages are what to expect at closing and closing costs explained. So if you have, what you're suggesting, some facts on your website, on a web page that goes through, details what they can expect at the closing, breakdown of definition of the different closing costs, or then turn that into a video, and you can push that out through your email marketing or your social media. And then also, as a side note, would also love to know to hear about your stories about how title insurance protected the home buyer. As we're trying to tell the industry story, we love to get those real life examples. So if you have a video, send them our way as well. Send them to me. So
yeah,
anyway.
Great point. And many of you send a welcome email anyway, right? You're doing a lot of this anyway, right? So all we're talking about is repurposing what you're doing and getting more mileage out of it. If you're doing a welcome email, attach a video to it, right? To personally introduce the team and what they can expect, in that. So there's a lot of variations to how you can leverage this content. Technology options that are available. This is something, we preach a ton, right? Again, many of you are sitting on different tools that are really awesome, that help, with efficiencies and help the customer experience. We talk about things like portals and things of that nature, or if they're getting notifications instantly at different milestones. These are all things to help you set the table, not only as a competitive advantage, but it helps the customer just know how to get prepared and what they can expect. Again, it builds trust, right? And that's ultimately what leads to a great experience at the end of the day once things are delivered as promised. This beware watch list. So again, when you talk about where things could go wrong, things like wire fraud scams, identity theft traps, things of this nature, email marketing, videos, this is content you can, again, send out in different channels, but content that they should, know about, be aware of, and understanding what's at risk, and how they can protect themselves. All great things to include in that content. And then lastly here, I mentioned resources. So again, when we talk about different things at a county level, appraiser site links, tax assessor links, any other community links that are geographically centric to what a lot of your customers might find useful, having them listed, not only articulated in a video, but on an email. Company tools, again, if you've got calculator tools for things like net sheets. We talked about client portals earlier, where they could have 24/7, 365 access to their documents or secure communication, things like online deposits. So what we've seen a lot is, again, half the battle out there is having some fantastic technology and options for your customers, but the other half is making sure they know about it, right? And so bringing about that awareness, not just one time, but on a consistent basis, will help you get more utility out of those other investments that you have in your technology to really bring about that experience. So hopefully this kind of gives you a good framework to get started from a content perspective. This is a good example of a customer that leverages video to educate how a customer can use their net sheet calculator, right? So again, some of the how-tos. If you take kind of a frequently asked questions and apply that to what someone might be thinking about when it comes to a calculator, that's in essence what they did here. And so they titled, the title of the video in a framework that would, be that of a question being asked of a new user. How do I create a net sheet calculator? And they've got that as a title. So using this for different tools and explaining the how-tos is a great way to, again, extend how you can leverage content out of tools and things you already have and just pushing them out through these different channels. The other thing that I wanted to include are just some other content topics, and I won't get too granular in these, but these are just, again, things you don't have to reinvent that will come organically. When we talk about seasonal greetings, will just depend on the time of the year or what you want to promote in terms of a greeting. Any kind of promotional offers. I believe reissue credit, as an example here, may or may not apply to every state. But if you're a state where that applies, how many people know about it? And in a very competitive market, you want to make sure that you're marketing the fact that that's available and how they can take advantage of it. Again, this might be perceived as a competitive advantage because you're educating your consumer better than your competitor, right? So again, another great way to both articulate that in an email marketing message, but also via video. Any kind of partner announcements, not necessarily just announcing the partner, but what's in it for your consumer because of the partnership, right? You want to make sure that you include that in many of your announcements. You know, it's great that you had this, whatever it is, partnership, but what does that really mean to me, right? Make sure that that's relevant in your message. Any kind of community involvement or events that you're having. Again, these are all topics that you can include in a video message, that you can include in an email marketing message. And in the video messages, again, could be multi-purpose, because that could be a blog post on your website. That could be a social post, right? You can leverage that video in a couple different ways.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Dean, definitely. Community involvement, it goes so far. It promotes your company. It can highlight your staff, and then if you're doing it on social media, tag them if you can, because then friends of friends can see it, and that just has a nice ripple effect. If you're doing a habitat build, or if you're helping at a shelter or a kitchen, any involvement, it just shows the support that you have for your community, your town. And also another thing to highlight, the products and maybe resources that you provide. If you do remote online notarization,
it's a great one.
Video of that, highlight that,
yes.
Showcase how you can help, people who might not be able to get out of their home, who might be overseas in the military, who might be ill, any of the reasons, showcase that, showcase the technology you may have to help protect data, money, with the wire fraud running rampant, that you have this software in place, realtor lenders to help protect the funds. So a lot of things you can do to highlight, who you are as a company.
Yeah, and I think the more granular you do get, not to mix too many messages up, but really focus on the audience that you're trying to connect with, and position how you would position things like Ron in their speak, right? So that Ron, as an example, if you're Ron enabled, that has a different connotation of value to a realtor who partners with you, because now that capability is in essence an extension of their ability, right? So they work with a partner that can facilitate these types of remote closings that will enable that customer not to be as disrupted in their day-to-day, right? Whether they're on vacation or whatever. It's no different than online payments, right? It's just an easier way to be an extension of value. So depending on who you're marketing to, you want to make sure that the messaging really does align of what that value set means to them, and to help make them successful. That'll really get some good traction. But that's a great point you make about the community involvement, though, Jeremy. It makes you human, right? It rounds the corners that you care, and you're really empathetic to the needs of the community, and are going to be there, beyond just adding your service, but really, helping to lift up those around you as well. So it's a great point.
And another thing is, if there are special programs or something like that that you're offering to help with affordable housing, that's definitely a focus of the FHFA, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So, from an industry perspective, it's good, helpful, beneficial to highlight what we're already doing and have been doing to help with the affordable housing initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the takeaway there is making sure you've inventoried your particular market, your audience, which one of these would resonate the best to that market, and really speak the value to them. You're gonna find in your testing that alignment matters when it comes to conversion, and folks just staying connected to your messaging in the long term. All right, sweet. Okay, so we're getting into some of the bonus tips, which I'm excited about. So press releases I don't know how many of you have tried a press release before. If you have not, it is a very cost-effective way to not only kind of raise your business on a pedestal and really get the spotlight on your brand, um, but it's again a multi-purpose piece of content, right? So there's a couple of things you can do with a press release, and just to kind of break those down, if you've got a website that has a banner capability at the top where someone can kind of click on the banner to read the latest news. Again, things like expansion of a new office or partnership, like we just talked about. If you've got an announcement there, or new offerings in technology, a new website, different lines of service. These are all things that you can embody in a press release. You're going to have the ability to use them, on your website as a blog. Email marketing. I mean, this can be again tucked into your email marketing campaigns that you push out. Even your email signature link. Having something there like the latest news, or did you know, or did you hear about, hyperlinked to this press release to announce whatever that latest and greatest piece of news is. This could also serve as a video topic. So you could also summarize what you have in the press release in video form, and then leverage this as a social post, both in video form and just as a link, summary on a social post that drives them to the actual press release itself. It is really cost effective to do. So as a matter of fact, Jeremy, I think if folks are ALTA members, they can leverage Title News Online, right, to publish a press release. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We send out an e-news called Title News Online every Tuesday and Thursday. So yeah, if you have an expansion, new offering, we don't always run new offerings because a lot of title companies will implement a new software. So our news would be flooded with new softwares. But if it's an expansion into a new market, a new office, a new hire at an executive level, definitely send them my way. They'll run in the Title News Online, and then be repurposed into the magazine, the monthly magazine as well. So you, awesome. in a way, you get 2 hits, and then it's also on our website. So
yeah, that's great. And that also kind of has a sidebar benefit for SEO if someone is looking you up by name. These other providers are just paid providers, so a lot of them you can find offerings for under $500 for single releases. Somewhere in, I've seen them, $99 to even a couple $100. It just depends on what kind of reach that you want with the press release and what channels you want them in. So fairly straightforward as you get to some of these other providers, kind of how to navigate the offerings. But again, cost effective, and something that really can help get mileage on your brand and what people should know and care about.
Yeah, we ALTA uses Cision to get our press releases out on the web. But so what we do that as one path, and then we also send our press releases to our media list. So direct email, so they have it in inbox as well. So 2 paths to get our news out to the media.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what we go back to, multi-purpose here. You saw, email marketing is another channel you can use this for. It sounds like you guys already do that, which is great. And again, I would get as much mileage out of this effort as you possibly can. And you're going to see that as a benefit. Again, this is something that is already happening. All you're doing here is really expanding the awareness of what happened and leveraging that as part of your marketing strategy.
Yeah, and it's what you said, work smarter. So we'll send it out on the web. We'll do the direct marketing email. We'll get it in our own Title News Online, and then we'll hit it in social media as well. So you definitely have that tier approach.
Yeah, the tier approach, and then you can, what I always recommend is pointing people back to where you want them to go to read more. And ultimately, we always suggest that hitting a website that has a call to action for contacting you, or giving them the ability then to learn more about your business, or maybe you've got, again, different types of FAQs on there that are interesting, or they're learning more about your process in general, about closings and real estate, title insurance and how that works. So it's a great way to drive traffic. So the next bonus tip I have here are QR codes, and it's kind of funny because these at one time were kind of a heavy lift, Jeremy. I don't know if you remember, but you had to kind of get like a scanner app, and it wasn't easy to use. Now most smartphones, they've enabled them in the camera feature to basically take a picture of the QR code, and it redirects you where you want to go. So there's been a huge boost in leveraging QR codes for marketing purposes. I'm going to be sharing a QR code generator that's free here in just a minute, but you can leverage this. In this particular example, they've leveraged it to point to their net sheet calculator solution, and that's certainly one example that you can use it for, but there are several. This is an example list of different things that we've seen people use QR codes for, and if you do scan that QR code, it'll take you to the QR code generator. I believe it's free for 14 or 17 days. It's long enough for you to try it out to see if you like it. And it's not crazy expensive if you want to keep it, but you can at least try it, use it, see how it works for you. There are a lot of these available, but this was one, again, that's free to start. I've seen them, again, tied to success tools like we just saw with a net sheet calculator, opt-in pages. So we looked at using kind of an opt-in for a newsletter or any kind of email marketing that you're going to be doing. You can send people directly to that, video links, certain web pages that you want them to land on, digital flyers, things like reviews. Like one of the things that we have promoted heavily is within our feedback automatic solution, just kind of soliciting for reviews, especially like at the closing table where they're at the peak of their happiness. Is having a QR code there that they can scan to leave the review has worked really well for folks. Press releases is another one. So again, it's really wherever you want to point them, right? You can designate a QR code to point anywhere, but these are some of the categories that we've seen kind of trending where people are heavily using them to kind of scale up how they market their message as well. So if you're not already leveraging QR codes, highly recommended. Again, they can be leveraged digitally on things like websites like we just saw, in print. So they're multifaceted in that way. And frankly, I mean, I've seen just a lot of businesses gravitating towards using this type of a tool. They do capture metrics as well, so you can kind of see on the back end how many folks have scanned it. And again, when you start looking at the analysis around which pieces really are converting versus others that aren't, you can also pair those results to leveraging QR codes maybe for certain categories, and others maybe not so much. It just depends on the results.
Hey, Dean, we have a note from Carla. It says Bitly QR code generator is the best. I've been using it for a while now. So
yeah, and that's what this is. So yeah, you're good. So this one is the Bitly one, and that's a great point that you make. Thanks for sharing that. They have the 14. I think it's a 14-day trial. So again, doesn't cost you anything, and I think their lowest plan is like $199 a year. I mean, it's fairly low, and it includes, it's limited in how many of these you can create in it, but at least to get started and to try it out, I'd highly recommend it and see how it works for you.
And Carla added the metrics are key. So data is always definitely helpful. So
yes, being data driven takes the guesswork out, right? And use it, learn from it, pivot, right? And keep your iterations going so that you can really nail it down. The third bonus tip I have here is social media engagement. That's really free, so not any kind of paid ads or anything like that. But some of this you may have heard, and actually, Jeremy, you alluded to the tagging. That's one that's not on here, but is one that you can do that does help spread the mileage. What I always recommend is, if you're going to post, posting with things like thought leadership, where you're sharing your expertise, but also asking for comment, asking for engagement. especially if it's something that's really, interesting, can really help generate not only awareness of you as a thought leader, but get you, maybe some doors open to people that really care about whatever it is you're talking about, and that could lead into deeper conversations that end up with a coffee or lunch, right? Surveying is also one that I've seen that, again, it gets interactive with an audience, and it helps to create some follow-up also with those that have engaged. Hyper-local content, nothing new here, always wins. So if you've got happenings in and around your office or the immediate area that you serve, that's going to always bode way better than just generic content. Replying also, so if you see someone else doing what I just said up top, but you're the recipient of that, or you see it posted, replying with some thought leadership and sharing your expertise in the reply also gives you some exposure that not only you took the time to read their post, but you gave it some time to really think about an educated opinion on the matter, right? Not only do they see it, but others see it as well. And so, that's something that we have seen bode well to, again, expand relationships. And then I put a note in here as well, personalized support. So if someone is posting different things like a life event or a milestone that was hit, and you're giving them a little note that's kind of customized, their personality type, or whatever it is, you're really giving thought to that relationship and a response that's personalized to them. That stands out, right? Like you took the time to read it, and you're sharing your support in whatever that is. Again, here the cost is your time, right? Liking is something that is quick to do, but can go a long way with the fact that you took whatever that time was to, again, show support in a like, both on a professional front and on a personal front. So many of you may also be included on networks like LinkedIn. That's one where, as folks get things like promotions, or they're moving to a different company, or whatever the case may be, LinkedIn really breaks it down for you and even gives you a canned response that you can just modify really quickly, if you want to do it that way. But doing that consistently just lets them know that you're thinking about them, that you're seeing them, and that you're applauding, what they have got going on in their life there. Sharing the wins and causes of others too. So again, we talk about milestones, things like expansions of folks that are in your network that are growing either their business or something that they're doing to professionally develop. These are all reasons to support, give praise, and share, especially if it's like charitable fundraisers or hiring needs. Sharing that within your network, again, it's going to show support. It takes no time to do, but it does go a long way. You can tag that person to when you do the share, and again, you've taken time out of your day to do this. It costs you $0, but it puts you on their map, right? So again, this is something, it's free to do. It's just your time, but consistency with it goes a long way over time.
And not only can you use that to market your business, but it showcases the culture of your company.
Sure does.
So it may help in drawing talent, people that, hey, this company looks fun and they do awesome stuff in their community, I want to work for them. So it can have a two-pronged impact. And simple things like this past weekend for Easter, if maybe your company did an Easter egg hunt or something like that, or if you have like a chili cook-off, or you did something for the Masters, snap a picture, just shoot a little video and put it out there on social media and test it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, like you said earlier. It just has to be authentic.
It has to be authentic, and building a habit. I know it's hard, right? But consistency with this is what wins. And so you have to find your own happy medium in your crazy day, your crazy week, of what is just a natural thing for you to do that you can commit to, that takes sub 30 minutes, in some cases sub 10 minutes, right? Like just something, hey, you just had the 7th question come across your desk that's about how to, what can I expect out of this closing? That might be a good time to take the quick video, send it to that person, but then keep the video for something that you post on social media, something that you post on your next email marketing campaign, things of that nature, right? Things that you are already doing tend to be the best places to start. So you're not having to think of net new content, right? And a lot of the tools that I shared, again, are tools that you may use, with the exception of probably MailChimp, but like YouTube, I'm willing to bet many of you have watched a video on YouTube. So it's not, going to be completely, foreign to get started. And if it is, it's pretty intuitive to get going. Like you saw, there's only a handful of steps there to get moving with it. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys found this productive. I think we're almost at time. We've got a few minutes, I think, for questions, Jeremy, but I hope everyone enjoyed the content and found it useful. I am available for questions outside of our time here. That's my personal or direct email, rather. So if you've got questions of anything that you saw here or you want to mind share, happy to connect with you and help any way I can. But with that, Jeremy, I am going to just be open to whatever questions that may be out there.
Yeah. Thanks, Dean. And we will hold a few minutes here. If you have any questions for them, pitch them in the questions box, and we'll address them now. Otherwise, hit Dean up, via email later. Samantha had asked earlier when you were talking about MailChimp and Canva if they sell their contact data and if that's how they make money. So I did a little bit of Googling in between. And as a side note, it's very cool and useful that I read that Canva is integrated with MailChimp, which makes that pretty seamless to send it out. But Canva says it does sell your data. MailChimp does not. So at Canva, I think you can create like an anonymous account. You could use your like a Yahoo email or something like that and create that account, and that way, they sell it, you're not going to be impacted too much. Dean, anything you want to add about that?
No, I mean, I would say engage with what you're comfortable with, right? I mean, do your homework like you're doing and make sure you're comfortable with the tools that you're using. You can Google just like Jeremy did to figure out if whatever practices that they do, matches what you're comfortable with them using. And if it's not, then you can. There's going to be other tools out there. Some of them, again, you may have to pay for, but most of the entry points that are out there now are fairly cost effective, right? So to Jeremy's point, if you're leveraging kind of a pseudo name, so to speak, just to kind of dial in, if it's something you even like, if you're comfortable doing that, there's nothing wrong with that if that is something you're comfortable with. But yeah, outside of that, I don't really have much to add.
Yeah, and on the Canva topic, definitely a great resource to use as marketing material. We're actually going to hold a webinar in June that's going to focus just on Canva, so it'll be pretty interactive. To
awesome
attend it, see how we're going to play around in it and see how you can create infographics, flyers, marketing material. And for the title industry, if you're an ALTA member, you don't have to recreate the wheel. ALTA has tons of material at alta.org/homebuyer. The link's in the chat box. There's also a social media calendar that provides content by month. The key is that it's great starter material, but as Dean said, it's impactful if you personalize it and make it relevant to your market, to your people, to your company. So take it and then feel free to edit it and make it more relevant for your cause. So aside from that, just a reminder, if you missed today's webinar, if you think others in your office would benefit from listening, a recording to the presentation will be sent to everyone tomorrow, and you can always access our archives at alta.org/webinar.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeremy. And for the audience, if there are any topics that we talked about that you want to hear more of, let us know that too. Happy to go deeper dive into any of this, but appreciate everyone carving out a few minutes to allow me to share today.
Okay, yep, thank you, Dean. I just need to thank Certified once again for sponsoring today's webinar. And with that, that will bring us to the conclusion of today's presentation. Take care, everyone.
All right, see you guys.